Hey folks, so this week I've been out trying to hunt down anything that could be considered experimental or slightly unusual in the way of Soviet architecture. Let's see what I got. If a Stalinka and Khrushchevka had a love child, then this is what it would look like. It's got elements of Stalinist architecture for sure, but it's also got styles of the new Khrushchev style as well. Khrushchev made a decree in 1955 wanting to cut out all the excess in Soviet architecture to save the Soviet state a lot of money. It was obviously built before the decree came in, which is why it's got the Stalinist sort of grandeur style to a certain extent, but completely without any of the fancy fittings. This was the very first type of Khrushchevka, but it didn't go into mass production for the sheer fact that it was just too good. It's not often you see a tram above you, is it? They're normally alongside you. Look at this guy. He's trying to steal Lenin's pose, isn't he? Like holding the coat open, arm up. In fact, that even looks a bit more like Kirov's pose. Unlike Lenin, who was known worldwide, Kirov probably wasn't known that well outside the Soviet Union, and that's because he was assassinated in 1934, and it happened here in St. Petersburg, where he was the mayor. In fact, his death was highly significant and had huge repercussions, because it's thought that it's his death that started the Stalinist repressions of the 1930s. This slightly odd location is where they built the city's first experimental housing microregion with the large panel blocks. The little housing region starts just there and comes around here. It's only little, but like I said, it's experimental. Again, it was built in the mid-50s, so it's got the early experimental type of Khrushchevkas too, and I do think they are more aesthetically pleasing than the later models. What I like about this is, you know, unlike blocks nowadays or blocks that came later, there's sort of just big car parks surrounding them. Here, this is really nice green space actually. You can have a jog along the waterway. And of course, in the 1950s, it wasn't a major problem to consider the need for parking lots, because in 1950s USSR, wow, having a car, that would have been a real privilege. The little housing estate was made up of 9 of these medium-length blocks. Another thing that's unusual about these first series of Khrushchevkas is that they've got windows and balconies on the side. Now, I'm pretty sure later ones didn't have that. And what's interesting is that the blocks face off against the architectural style which preceded them. And here, right next to each other. Know the difference for yourself. You see, these are probably some of the last blocks put up before Khrushchev decided to simplify the architecture, so after that you didn't see all the details like that. The bridge by the estate has got some rather intricate artwork, but I mean a funny location for that as well, because these cars speeding past, I mean no one's going to be able to appreciate it, are they? And apart from me, no one else is walking along this noisy road, and I don't blame them. Now this one's obviously an in-between Khrushchevka, between having the windows and balconies and between having nothing at all. This is one of the more common types of Khrushchevka we see more often, with no windows or balconies at the end. And look, you can see so clearly how the big concrete slabs were put together. You see the tall block behind me? That's also a little bit unusual. Now this chap's probably a little bit lonely, because if you look, he's the only tall block in the whole area. I realise for the untrained eye all these tall blocks can all look the same, but actually they can be quite different. Wow, just look how far out the balconies stick from the building. Also, you can quite clearly see in that section of open balconies there that they're sort of not rectangular, they're sort of like more of a triangular shape, and then it actually matches with the top as well, you can see. The next block I'm coming to is very similar to the last one. It's a bit lonely, it's the only one of its kind, and it's the only one like this I've seen. I mean, there might be others, but I haven't seen it. If there are, there can't be many. It's a Brezhnevka, not a Khrushchevka. Particular things to observe: the balconies, both the longer ones in the middle, and then the funny little round ones hanging off the end. And then the thing at the top's rather unusual as well. The ends stick out as well by 2 rooms. It's pretty sturdy, I'll give it that. The back side's not quite as interesting as the front side. Again, it seems more of an experimental type. Like I said, I don't see many that look like that. And if you look around the neighbourhood, again, there's no cluster. It's the only one like that. That's kind of cool. But that one is more interesting. Now I know what you're thinking, Paul, you nuts, that's just a normal block. But no, actually, there's 1 or 2 unusual things about it. The first thing is this. It's actually the staircase which protrudes from the building. And that's what all those other things sticking out are as well, staircases. The rest of them along the block are actually sort of a triangle shape. Kind of unusual, really. And also, in true Russian style, you can see there, someone's bought one of the ground floor residential homes and turned it into a cafe. I think the idea of having the staircases coming out of the building is to create more space within the building. But I don't know, it doesn't really seem to work, because if you look, you know, the building is indented before it comes out again with the staircases. If you see, and they've got parts of it sticking out, and the parts that are sticking out is exactly the parts opposite where the staircases are on the other side. I guess another thing they tried but that didn't quite come off was the fact that all the entranceways are on the street side instead of the inner court side, as is normal. Now, I guess that's kind of good if you're someone that uses public transport, but if you've got your own car, that's most inconvenient, because you can't park your car on the main road, so you have to park your car here, like people are, and then you've basically got to walk around the building to be able to enter it. Just came across this rather unusual specimen here. Can't say I've seen many like that at all, if any. And judging by what's happened to its neighbours, it might not be around for too much longer. So here we can see quite clearly what I was trying to say earlier. You see that's got 5 floors, that later Khrushchevka. And look, an earlier one here which is the same height, if not even taller, but just with 4 floors. This is slightly noteworthy. You see on the main street, they've got 5 floors there. The bottom floor is all taken up by, you know, commercial things, and also it's like a brick building. It looks a little bit more prestigious than the ones on the next row, which don't have the commercial section. 5 levels of residential, and kind of not necessarily quite as aesthetically pleasing, slightly hidden out of the way there. So this rather cool building here, this was actually built for the giants who live in the city, and that is why this has to be so high up. I just come across a little bonus behind me. It's not housing, but I do think it's probably experimental. I've seen already a couple of them in the city, and I've not seen them anywhere else, so maybe it's just a St. Petersburg thing. It's certainly a bit odd. It seems to be for services, and also a kind of a car park as well. I mean, it's in quite a big residential area, so maybe the car park was useful, as were the services. But really, on the upper part, I mean, it's kind of, well, I don't know really, it's just like a roundabout. Doesn't seem particularly useful. And the wall is a bit taller than me, so I'm actually going to have to lift it up to show you guys. And then here's the entrance and exit to the top level. So I mean, apart from being particularly ugly, even by Soviet standards, it seems a little bit pointless as well. So I'm surprised that I've already come across a few of these in the city, but it could explain why I've not seen them in any other city. You've got a small commercial section at the front with a market and a cafe. Next up, a couple of buildings which I'm sure must have been experimental, because although I think I may have seen them before somewhere, they're clearly unusual. They're twins and they're called the Shamrock Buildings. Now you might not understand why from this angle, but if I come round a bit, you'll see that they're actually three-sided. One side there, other side there, and then the other side behind. And opposite it's this twin, and they're both kind of acting as entrance gates to the north of the city. I can't swear to it, but I think that the little knob thing on top, I think that's purely just, you know, to make it like a shamrock. I don't actually think it serves any purpose. I don't know why they weren't rolled out in larger numbers. I mean, they seem alright to me, kind of compact, but still house a lot of people. Perhaps it's because it's slightly clumsy appearance, or maybe it's just because it takes up slightly more ground space than a straight building. It seems I've got quite a lot of material this week. Obviously I'll edit out loads of it like I always do, but it's probably going to go over time again, so sorry about that. Well done for sticking it out this far, and I'll let you go now. See you next week.